Hello and welcome to another edition of Finding God in Science with me, Dr. Hilary Swank, coming to you from the Jesus Love Institute of Physics and Science. No, really it is science, physics, real physics, that's what scientists do, institute in North Carolina. Now this week we've had my sack has been bulging with lovely letters, and this week's prize winner is a question from a high school science teacher in North Carolina called the Reverend Sammy Tommy Patterson. It's a lovely name. He says, "Dear Dr. Spank, I love the show and learning lots about how to find Jesus in science. I particularly enjoyed last week's episode when you found all that evidence about Jesus in that grapefruit slice. During a science lecture recently where I were explaining about evolution from Ken Ham's new book, You Don't Know, Because You Weren't There, Are You God? It's a great book. If you haven't had a chance to read it, do pick up a copy. It's well worth a read. And one of the children asked me a question that I have to admit I couldn't answer. After beating him mercilessly for several hours, I carefully researched the topic in the scriptures and came up empty. So I thought I'd ask you." Oh, lovely. The question was, if God created everything and everyone, and God doesn't make mistakes, who is it making all the gays? Yours sincerely, Reverend Sammy Tommy Patterson, also known as Super Hung Daddy 76. Well, Reverend Patterson, that is a great question, and we love great questions here at Finding God in Science. And as ever, there's only one book worth looking at, and that's the Dr. William Lane Craig book of smart making, and we'll just whip the old girl out and see what she's got to show us. Okay, here's what it says. The answer is that gay is caused by self-observing wave functions. What are they? And now, wave functions are a very interesting thing about quantum mechanics, which you don't need to know about, nobody really needs to know about, in the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Now this shows that naturalism is false, so it's not real, nothing's real. Now if naturalism were true, which it isn't, but if naturalism were true, it would mean that I don't exist. I'm just a random collection of atoms. Oh, silly old science. But obviously not this science, we're proper scientists here. Now, if I don't exist, then eyes don't exist, and so nobody can see. Now, since the speed of light, also called c, is constant and very much does exist, as shown by Professor Einstein, to be equal to the square root of energy over mass. Square roots don't grow like ordinary roots, though, and often don't fit into round pots. The square roots are the gays here, and God only makes round roots. So there you have it. I hope that's answered all your questions. If you do have any other scientific questions, I don't know, maybe you want to understand how you can link quantum mechanics to free will, all those sort of crazy ideas that make absolutely no sense and only show that you have absolutely zero knowledge about anything. But if you do want to know more, then, come down to the Institute or send a letter in onto Finding God in Science, and who knows, maybe we'll find a little bit more of God in science next week. So join me then. I'll say ta-ta for now. See how young and fashionable I am. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye now. I'm just going to pop upstairs and pop this book away in my library. Lovely.